So before we get started with today's video, I'm going to be creating a space on my Patreon and I'm going to call it Den Talks. DEN Talks. These are usually conversations that I have offline with people, with my submissives, um, with various individuals, and they're going to be raw, uncut, pretty much. They're not going to be anything fancy, no backdrops and nothing like that. Just audio, so you can listen to the things that I say and I talk about in my private life. The conversations, the philosophical debates and understanding and conclusions that I've came to is going to be a part of my Patreon now. I'm going to be starting this up probably by the end of this week because I have to get all the files together, and I'm going to be disseminating them over the course of the next couple of weeks or so. It's not going to be a whole bunch at one time so that you're not overloaded trying to listen to everything and trying to keep up with other content and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought that would be a good idea because I have a lot of conversations and side notes that I have with other people and even with myself. There'll be a lot of times that I'll be driving and I'll be like, yes, that's something that I didn't consider. And I'll make a rough cut audio recording. So, and I call them den talks, because these are things that happen in the privacy of my own den, right? Whether it be my car or my home. So I thought that would be an interesting thing to include. But anyways, check it out. Let me know what you think. On to the video. Back again for another video. On today's topic, we'll be talking about my authority. Okay, yes, I know. Talk about this stuff a lot. But every time I talk about it, I give it to you in a different aspect, of course, with some of the tenets that I have mentioned in previous videos relating to such topic. Well, anyways, when it comes to authority, many people approach it normally the same way. And that is recognizing it. That is firstly recognizing it. It's not a lot of times that you run across people who do not recognize authority. And I'm not talking about consciously. I'm talking about in their subconscious. Their subconscious mind is always picking apart the reality in the environment. Also with themselves. This is a lot of times where people oftentimes will react in the way that they do because this is a reaction from their subconscious to their conscious, or subconscious given to their consciousness to behave in the way they do. We call them rebellious, right? And a lot of people can't even explain their own rebellion, but it's because they recognize authority. I mean, think about it. In regards to a rebellion, how does it exist? It would mean that you need an opposition to rebel against, which means that it would as authority. You don't rebel against something that you believe is lower than you, do you? I don't think anybody does that. You don't normally approach things with a mindset of I am no longer under this and I am no longer in control of this if it was never above you in the first place. You know what I'm saying? You don't, there's some people who live in a delusional state of mind, in a delusional state of existence, who can sometimes finagle their way into letting things be above them that shouldn't, and then rebelling against those things. But for the most part, we understand the hierarchy. We understand the way things should be subconsciously. This is the reason why we move the way we do. A lot of times when it comes to the people who are very self-aware and aware of their environments, past a physical understanding of how these things exist, right? But when it comes to my authority, I've been tried. I've been tried a lot. I've been tried more times than I should have been tried, given my authority, right? Given the place that the individuals understand that I hold. They understand that I hold a place of authority. They understand that I hold a place that is above them. but yet and still they rebel. This is the spirit of Jezebel. This is what we call it in normal. A lot of times, normally, we call it the spirit of rebellion. This is talked about in the Bible a few times. You can catch it, but to rebel is to be against nature in its natural form. In its natural form, to rebel is to be against nature, because nature presents the hierarchy, and everyone should fall into that, right? The essence, the nature of the spirit is to go against that hierarchy in regards to rebellion. It's a sad thing to see, because we all know the story at the end of the day that the good will override the bad, the evil. That's what normally happens. And this is because this is the spiraling course, the seemingly chaotic course of existence, that everything will come back to balance. There is a thing called, let me look it up. Hold on 1 second. I had to look at the actual definition for it, because this is something me and my friend were talking about a long time ago. Me and my homeboy of mine, he's an engineer. So he does, he's got his doctorate in engineering. So he knows exactly what he's talking about. But we were discussing the fundamentals of thermodynamics, the 3 laws or whatever. But we were talking about entropy. And I'll read the definition here. A thermodynamic quantity representing the unavailability of a system's thermal energy for conversion into mechanical work, often interpreted as the degree of disorder and randomness in a system. But I'm going to give it to you more in layman's terms, because they actually have a layman's terms version of this. Number 2 says, lack of order or predictability, gradual decline into disorder. That's the definition of entropy. And this is the course that the universe is on. It's on a course of entropy, because we constantly see the universe expanding from its point of origin. We constantly see that it is rapidly gaining distance in between the stars. We see this. We're predicting that there's going to be so much space in between the stars eventually, if it continues on this rate, that it's going to be hard to see the nearest star from the star that you're on, or that you're near at that point in time, or at that point in space, rather. Space and time. Yeah. But this is entropy. But why I bring this up is because even with entropy, even with the vastness of the universe, this is only a collective within the 3-dimensional realm. Someone in the 4th dimension is viewing this in a mathematical order. They're viewing this in a order that is seemingly disorder to us, but order to them. What I'm saying is that the level of entropy is under the hierarchy of a higher authority, meaning that the lower is always more chaotic than the higher. And this is simply what we see in regards to women. We see the entropy of women because this is a constant decline of their existence. This is a constantly spiraling decline of the way they view life. It's been said a lot of times, especially through studies and polls that's been taken, that the decline of happiness for women is in the shitter, for lack of better words. But why exactly? Why is this the existence of women? It's because they are not submitting to the higher order. They're not submitting to the more how can I put it? The more structural existence under authority. This is the reason why. I mean, we can clearly see this. I mean, you can make an objective assertion of what exactly is going on, because I know you know somebody, and I'm speaking to you. I know you know somebody who just happens to be female, if you're not female yourself, whose life is in complete disarray. I mean, complete and utter disarray. It's very rare for me personally, and this is probably due to the energy field that I keep around me. Due to the way I posture myself and carry myself, I don't really run into men who are chaotic. I don't. I don't attract them. We don't hang out in the same spaces. I know they exist because the women talk about them. But personally, I don't necessarily know any. But I know a lot of women. I've run across a lot of women whose lives are complete chaos. Complete chaos. Why? Why is their life complete chaos? It's because they're not submitting to the higher existence. They're only submitting to the lower existence, to the base existence of who they are, the entropy of their existence. I mean, it's unfortunate that with all the knowledge that we have in this world, with all the information technology, with all the advents that we have to exchange this information at rapid lightning speed, that there are still people confused about a lot of things in this world in regards to their own existence. I think it becomes a point where you have to acknowledge that there's something wrong here. I mean, if your normality is inconsistency, at some point you have to get fed up with that. You have to get fed up with being pulled in so many directions, because that's essentially what chaos is. It's not standing in one place at one time. Is oftentimes being pulled in several directions of wherever the wind blows, and the wind being one's own chaotic nature. It's unfortunate because in chaos there is no solace. In chaos there is no structure. In chaos there is no calmness. There's no peace of being. There is no existence that is calm. Once again, I couldn't personally, I believe that's why a lot of men end up in early graves, because they're either, especially, okay, so there was this study that was done a long time ago that said that married men live longer than unmarried men. That is an illusion. I've talked about this before, but I'm gonna mention it again. But that is an illusion. That is a switch of a hand. That is here, look over here, don't pay attention to that kind of thing. And the reason why I can say that is because in this study, they don't include divorced men. Think about it. Why would you include divorced men into the married men statistic in regards to who lives the longest? Now, I think if we would do a study on divorced men and figure out how long they live, I think they probably would be at the bottom of the pool. The bottom of the pool. And if we include completely men that have been married, if they structured it that way, we will come to find out that probably men that never got married live longer. Well, why is that? Because here's the thing that you have to understand about entropy. Entropy is essentially the reason why we can't have a system that is constant, that feeds on itself in energy, meaning that it goes from the plus to minus equally. There's no such thing. That would be an infinite engine. It would be revolutionary. It would be something that would put away all of our notions and understanding about how energy works. But we understand that that'll never happen because this universe is governed on a +1 on each side, or on one side and a negative on the other. That is how our systems are governed. There will never be a complete balance because there will always be a certain level of motion, and in the motion, energy is lost. As long as there will be energy loss, sure, we can calculate these things, but once again, this is the overall entropy of the universe and how we exist. Sorry to be giving you a thermodynamics lesson, but this is the truth. And how I'm relating it to how women exist is because this is the reason why they cannot, how can I put it, seemingly get ahead by themselves a lot of times, because they're constantly putting themselves through chaos, their circumstances through chaos, and everyone around them through chaos, that it is slowly trickling out their energy, slowly but surely. And this is what happens to men. We get a relational expense to that. meaning that we have to use some of our energy, some of our life force in order to to bring structure, to bring order to a chaotic system. What is it like? Let's think about it. If put it this way, let's just put it in layman's terms. Let's say that I have a washing machine, because this happened a lot of times to me. I have a washing machine, and if you don't balance the clothes and washing machines when they go into the spin cycle, it starts to go crazy, and it sounds like there's a fight club downstairs, But you have to go downstairs and you have to reposition the clothes, and then you have to try it again. Think about if you were to do that for 20 years, what toll that would take on you. If you had to do that every day for 20 years, not saying that necessarily, this is causing you any upfront damage, but the fact that you are living your life peacefully upstairs, doing whatever it is that you're doing, being productive, whatever the case may be, lounging around, you're taking your leisure, right? And you have to every day, maybe even several times a day, go downstairs and rearrange those clothes because the system is chaotic, right? And you have to do this often in order to accomplish any type of product. Think about doing that for 20 years. Think about doing that for a lifetime. Yeah, sure. There was another thing in the military, they would, in school age, right? They would make you hold your arms out with books on them. They'd be like little small books, right? And you'd be like, this is nothing. But after 30 minutes, those books feel like they're 80 pounds each. You know what I'm saying? I'm equating this to the analogy of the analogy. And that is going downstairs and rearranging those clothes every single day, maybe several times a day, because it's a chaotic system naturally. Think about what that would do to you. Like I said, over a given time. Imagine that being the lightweight book that you're holding. And then over time, it just becomes heavier and heavier and heavier. You're using your life force to support these things subconsciously. I mean, you may even be doing it consciously, but subconsciously it's taken away from your life force. Every single time that you have to go downstairs and put your leisure time, your productive time, your creation time on hold to change these clothes around. Now, people would say, women aren't washing machines, and I get that. They're not washing machines. They're very dynamic, just like us. We're all human, right? That only makes my point more solidified. That with the system being more complex, that means that the unbalancing, the chaos will be more complex, which means that it would take another type of life force, a more strenuous, more potent type of life force to bring this system back to its normality so that it can produce the things that it's supposed to. This is what modern day men have to face in regards to women. But once again, this video is about my authority. Why does this have to do with my authority? Because I understand that this is the way that women exist. They exist in a chaotic base nature, and that things are going to be all over the place. But the thing about my authority is I only use it the way I want to use it. A lot of women will force you to use your authority in ways that you do not want to use it. This is because they have found the kink in your armor, right? They have found a way to exploit you, to get you to do unnecessary things in order to seemingly prove yourself to them. Remember the constant shit tests of a narcissist, right? My opinion, not a clinical diagnosis, but nonetheless, I am probably a good person to listen to on these things. I kind of know what I'm talking about. But anyways, when it comes to my authority, I can do what I want, what I will with it. And I know that I can necessarily get the results that I want with my authority. But the problem of it is that I use an excess of my life force to corral entropy, something that is going to be constant in its existence. Regardless of how much energy I put into motion against it, it is still going to have a trickle down effect on my very existence in my life force. We call it being henpecked sometimes. But I was having a conversation not too long ago about this. And that's the reason why I brought up this topic of my authority, because there have been women in my life who I've given clear direction to in order to stop the chaos, in order to test where the boundaries should be, right? In order to set up a structure that is relative to their nature, right? And they have pushed back on these things. Now, I understand that I hold a large level of authority, and they understand this. Remember, they're rebellious, right? Rebellious against what? The authority, of course, right? And they know that I can speak things into existence at my will, especially in regards to their submission through them. They understand this because, remember, again, I'm a dominant as well, and I deal with a lot of submissives. I've dealt with a lot of submissives throughout my lifetime, and then this has been a constant occurrence of things. But nonetheless, when it comes to my authority, they understand this, but yet they rebel against it. Why? The test, the constant shit tests. You know what I'm saying? Some of them are not shit tests. Some of them just are normal reactions because they have that spirit within them, the Jezebel, right? This, and just because you may have the Jezebel spirit doesn't make you necessarily a bad person. This is the same spirit that caused women to eat of the fruit of the tree of life. This is the same spirit. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't get admonished or abolished or anything. Only thing it got is sent out of the Garden of Eden. That's pretty much all that happened. So it's still around. You are the daughters of Eve, regardless of who you claim to be. You are the daughters of Eve, and that spirit lives within you. But anyway, since I made that point, when it comes to my authority, I understand that I can will these things out of existence, but it's at a consequence to me. It's always at a consequence to me. This is the reason why I chose to acknowledge myself as a dominant, because it's a much easier lifestyle for me. Like some of the things that men say that they go through and that they deal with, they're unrealistic to me. And then on the other side of the fence, some of the things that I go through and that I deal with are unrealistic to those men. So I understand that there's a difference in our lifestyles, but there's a commonality in between what we're meant to do. And that is to bring order and authority over things. That's what we're all meant to do, regardless of what you are and what you claim to be. As long as you're a man, you are this, period. That's what you are. But nonetheless, when I apply my authority to things, my life force drains from me every single time. So I'm more inclined to be attracted to a woman and draw to a woman who can bring herself to order. Some level of order that makes my job a little easier. And then I'm not necessarily expecting her to be the same level of authority over herself that I am over her. But nonetheless, there is a basic level of authority that should be expected. You're not a child anymore, right? But once again, I find myself sometimes throughout life with women who give me pushback. And I quit. I quit. That's a simple way to put it. I quit. You know why I quit? Because my life is precious and important to me. I'm not going to expend my life force just to see you smile. I'm not in the way where you're manipulating me to do something with my power, once again, that I spoke of earlier. Remember, manipulation, that I don't want to do, that I don't agree to doing. You know, I'm not going to be the guy who, there was a clip, and I may try to find it and put it in here, but there was a clip where Spider-Man was talking to Jane or whatever, and she jumped off of the building, and he jumped down and he picked her up and put her back on the ledge, and he asked her, "Why did you do that?" And she said to him, "Just to see if I was in danger, that you would come to save me." I don't have time for that. I don't have the patience for that. I don't have the life force for that, right? I know these women. I know every single woman that I've had in my lifetime. If I really wanted to have them the way that I wanted to have them, all I have to do is say, submit. All I have to do is say, get in line. All I have to do is put forth the energy that is necessary to save them from jumping off the building. I'm not going to ask them why did they do it, because I know why they did it. But essentially, I have to give up a level of my life force that I don't want to give anymore. I've done this before in my past. I can't say that I have not. But as I'm getting older, I realize that time and energy and willpower are some of the most important things that you can harness in this world. And I'm not going to use my time, my energy, or my willpower to show you my authority. But anyways, like, comment, and share. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Patreon. But until next time, this has been the Wolf in Better Clothes. May you have a good day. And of course, may peace be with you.